Join me today as we paint this cute mushroom house in ink and watercolor. I'm going to start with my sketch already done in ink on the page. If you are looking for the traceable sketch reference for this, you can have a look in the description box below this video, and the link to the free traceable sketch is there. I have traced the sketch onto my page, and I have used a Micron pen, permanent liner pen, to do the outline on the mushroom. I'm going to start by spraying my paints to activate them. And I'm going to start on the top of the mushroom first. I'm going to think to myself that the sun is coming from the top right. So I'm going to start with my lighter colors here and then move to a darker color as we move down. If I wanted to, I could use masking fluid on the little spots to make sure that I don't get any paint on them. But I'm just going to be careful and work around them and not bother with the masking fluid. I'm going to start with my silver black velvet size 8 round brush to put some water down on the top of the mushroom, and I might use a smaller brush around the more detailed areas, but this brush is a nice size to get the water down. Actually, I'm going to stop that for a moment because I think I should have prepared some colors first. So let me prep my colors first so that I'm not stressed for time when the water is down. So I'm going to just put some new Gamboge or any warm yellow color that you might have in your palette. Then I'm going to put some Pyrrole Scarlet. And then I want that to go darker for the darker area. So I'm getting Pyrrole Scarlet. And I'm going to mix that with some Quinacridone Rose. Or you can use any bright red color that you've got in your palette. That's going to be a nice bright red. Alright, now that my colors are prepared, let me carry on with putting my water down. I will use my smaller brush to do the edges and the detail work, but let's just get the water down in the larger areas first. This 100% cotton cold pressed paper really will allow some time for us to put the colors down and blend them before it dries. Right, that's the main body. Let me pick up the smaller brush. And I'm just going to go around the edges. I think I may have touched that one. I'm just going to lift the water and do that again. If I drop my head and look at it from the side, I can see the areas where I've put the water down and where I haven't. Alright, I can see that the water is down and also nice and evenly spread. I can't see any pooling of water in any areas or along the edge. So I'm ready to pick up my colors now. I'm going to start with the new Gamboge and put that on in my lighter area. Then just a light rinse on my brush. I'm going to pick up the Pyrrole Scarlet. It's quite heavily laden on my brush, so I'm going to start here and then work it back towards the new Gamboge. I'm just going to wipe my brush off a little bit and then just encourage a bit of blending here. and also just getting it to the edge. Alright, then let me pick up my dark red colour. I'm going to start from the bottom and work back. There's quite a lot of water pooling down here now because the paper has bent upwards because of the water. It's expanded, and so the water is running to the edges, but that's okay. I'm just going to keep on adding this darker red colour so that these areas that are in shadow really do get quite a thick consistency of it. That contrast between the darker and the lighter is really going to make it look three-dimensional and give it quite a lot of pop. I also know that it's going to dry lighter because of the amount of water that I've put on at the start. I'm just making sure that I've got around all of the little white bits. And I can see there are places where I have gone over the lines. I don't know if it's worth trying to lift any of that now. I'm just drying off my brush so that it doesn't bring water into the area. And with a clean dry brush, I'm just trying to push that back. Otherwise, I can just use a white pen or something later. I think whilst I've just got a chance, I'm going to drop some more Pyrrole Scarlet into this area before it dries on me. At any time, if you are anxious that your painting is drying and you're concerned about dropping in colour now and getting cauliflower effect, rather just let the whole thing dry completely. And when it's dry completely, you can then come and put water over the whole surface again and just add to what you've already got down. There's no need to stress yourself out about having to get everything in one go. If it does start drying on you, just let it dry all the way, and then come back, wet it down, and pick up from where you left off. And I think what I'm going to do, that's Pyrrole Scarlet and Quinacridone Rose mix that made the very deep red. I think I'm going to add a spot of Ultramarine to make that purple, and drop it down at the darkest area down here. If you are concerned that your layer is too dry at this stage to add this shadow color, then rather let the whole thing dry, prep your shadow color in the meantime, and when your top of the mushroom is completely dry, put some water down and do this as a second layer. And then the last thing I want to do is just encourage a bit more blending here. Alright, so if I do anything more now, I'm going to start lifting colour and messing things up. So let's leave the top as it is. Okay, I'm going to work on essentially the wall of the mushroom base. This barrier is going to separate the two, so that's fine. I can carry on working on the lower layer. I think I'm going to use yellow ochre. So I'll just prepare it here. I'm going to put water down, avoiding the leaves and flowers and so on. Alright, there's quite some intricate work there. I'm just rinsing off the smaller brush just so that I can work around some of the more intricate areas before I put my colour down. Alright, picking up that yellow ochre, I'm just making it a little bit of a thicker consistency on my brush. I want to give it a three-dimensional curved look, so to do that I'm going to put more pigment down the sides and then under the top here for the shading. So as long as I've got enough water down, it's going to blend itself nicely towards the center. And then let me put underneath the top here. And now I'm going to need to help it with some blending, so I'm just rinsing off my brush. I don't want it too wet, so I'm tapping off the excess. Just adding a bit more water when I need to. So anywhere that I haven't gone right up to the edge, now it's my opportunity to assist the blending to do that. And I think I want to get that yellow ochre in a thicker consistency again on my brush and just come under here so that I can make it look like a shadow. And one more little pass down the very outside, just with the excess that's on my brush. And if anyone needs a bit of help with the blending, I'm just going to do that one more time. Alright, I'm going to let this dry completely because I know I'm going to put my hand in something if I carry on at this point. So I'm going to let it dry and then come back and take it from there. Now that that's dry, I'm going to mix up a shadow color for underneath the mushroom. So I'm going to do, let me use my smaller brush rather. I'm going to make a mix. You can use any color that you want for a shadow color. If you've got a gray in your palette, you can. I'm going to mix up a shadow color out of a mix between ultramarine and some burnt umber, just because I want it to remain a little bit on the bluish side and not too grey. I'm happy with that. I'll do the underneath in two stages. I'm going to start by just putting water and shadow color right at the join between the underneath and the wall. I just don't want it to be too wet, otherwise the color that I drop in will fill the whole area. So I'm just lifting areas where I can see it pooling a bit. Alright, I'm going to take that shadow color and I'm going to do it around the very bottom. I'm just going to rinse off my brush and encourage a little bit of blending outwards. And now that I've done that, I'm going to pick up the shadow color again and put it around the base. All right, let's do some of the green work. Sap green I find often to be quite an unrealistic and overly bright green, but for something as whimsical as this, I'm happy to go ahead and not mute it down at all. So I'm going to use it first on the ivy on the wall. I'm also going to do it on the stalks of the sunflowers and also on the side here, or maybe I'll do this one in a different color. So just so that it's not all the same all over, I think I'm going to make my green a little bit yellower for this one on the side. Let me take some Hansa yellow medium. So that's a lot lighter now, and I'm going to do this plant on the side. I'm just using it in a little bit more of a watery consistency, just so that there is a difference in the greens. And then for the little standard that is there, I want to put some Hansa yellow light first over the whole plant. I'm just working wet on dry there, just so that the yellow goes straight on. It's such a small area, I want it to dry a little bit first because I'm going to drop the green in, but if I leave the yellow exposed up near the top, it's going to make it look like the sun is shining on it from above, and that's exactly what I want. So I just don't want it to be too wet and I drop the green in and the green just goes everywhere. So that's why I'm just stalling a few seconds. Now I drop the green in just at the bottom. And that yellow looks really nice up at the top there. And then I'm going to pick up my sap green in a thicker consistency and just drop that in at the bottom to look like shadow. And I don't want to put my hand in anything, but I think I'm going to just do the pot because I think I'll be able to do that. So I want to work a little bit wet and wet. I'm going to make it, again, it's so small, but I want to get a bit of water in there. And then pick up some burnt umber in a thickish consistency, which I'm going to drop in just down the left-hand side. And then if I can encourage it to the right, it'll give it a three-dimensional curved look. And then let me just pick up a little bit of burnt umber and put it down the left-hand side again. It just mustn't be wet. And then maybe we do the grass. I'm going to do a similar sort of thing. Maybe I'm going to start with yellow first and then drop in some greens throughout, just so that there's a bit of difference in our lawn. Alright, with my bigger brush I'm just going to pick up a little bit of the Hansa yellow light. Just watering it down a bit. Alright, then I'm going to pick up the green that's already in my palette, whatever remains. And then some Sap Green. Alright, let's let that dry. Now that that's dry, I'm going to pick up my shadow color again. And I'm just going to do the shadow side of each of my little spots. And then I'm just running out of my shadow color. I'm just going to mix up a little bit more. And what I'm going to do now is just do a little line on one side of each of these ribs, just to give a bit of a shadow. Once you've put the line down, if you want to do a little bit of blending, you can. Just to soften the edge, especially in these wider ribbed areas. Then I'm going to water it down a bit, maybe add a little bit more of French Ultramarine just to make it a bit bluer, and I'm going to paint in the window panes. Then I think I'm going to work on the sunflowers. I'm going to start by mixing, it doesn't matter if it's, actually let me take Hansa Yellow Medium. Just going to water that down and do each of the petals. And then I'm going to do a base layer on these tips. I might as well use the same shadow color that I've got here. I want to do it quite light because then I'm going to come in an additional layer and do a shadow on the parts that are facing downwards. So I'm just watering down my shadow color here, and I'm going to put it on a whole steps area. Some of my yellow has mixed in, making it a little green, and that's absolutely fine. I'm also just going to get a little bit of burnt umber and do the back of the flower pot here. And now I'm going to let that dry. Now I think I'm going to use a bit of burnt umber on the door. So I'm just going to mix it. It's quite watery, my palette there, so I don't think I need to wet the door first. I can take this quite wet mix and then put it onto the door. I just went a bit over the line there. It is very useful to have a brush with a sharp point when doing detailed work like this. I'm just moving around as I go down, just so that I don't get hard edges forming on the sections that I've already done. And then I'm going to use Quinacridone Gold on the center of the flowers. And if you don't have Quin Gold, you can use something like burnt umber. Oh, I forgot to do inside the door handle. Let me do that. And then let's do the shadow on the steps. I think I've left this for a while whilst I went and did something else. So I think this shadow is, oh no, it is still quite watery. Let me mix up a little bit more, just so that it's a thicker consistency suitable for the shadow on the steps. Alright, that's dark. So I'm going to do each of the shorter sides on the step. And I'll do a little shadow next to the pot. Alright, let's let that dry. I think I'm just about done. I think all I'm going to do is add a little bit of shadow around the windows and the door frame. So I'm just picking up that shadow color. So I'm going to do, if the sun is coming from this direction here, there's going to be shadow on the left and below. So that's what I'm going to do on the windows and on the left hand side of the door. If you are enjoying this tutorial and are gaining value from it, please consider making a small donation to me on my Buy Me a Coffee platform. As you can imagine, these tutorials take many hours of work to put together. I appreciate any and all donations, as they help me to continue building this platform. And then I'm just going to take some sepia in a thickish concentration and just do the stalk of the, oh that's the wrong colour, oh no, it's right, and do the stalk of the standard here. And the soil. Oh, I suppose I should do a shadow down below this little window in the door. And I guess we could get a bit fancy and do a bit of shadow for the ivy as well on the left hand side. And then, just because I've got it, I'm going to use my silver pen to do the door handle. You can do it in any color you like. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Oh, maybe I should just get my white gel pen and try and cover over my mistake here. So I'm just going to use my Uniball Signo white gel pen. I could have used bleed proof white or white gouache or something like that as well. And there's the final sketch. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please hit the like button below and let me know what you think in the comments box. Until next time, bye for now.